What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Lock and Cash podcast. It's the evening of Tuesday, October 21st, as we look ahead to week 8 in the NFL season. A really nice slate when I was reviewing it this morning, taking some notes. I actually like a lot of the games this week, even though there are some big spreads. Week 7 is wrapped up and in the books. It's hard to believe we're almost 2 months into the NFL season. It always, I mean, every year we say the same thing. It always goes so quickly, but for me in week 7, 6 total plays, 4 and 2 was the final count. Gave you guys 2 of them on the pod last week, the Eagles, which came through, the Texans, which did not. And man, I missed some of that game last night. I rewatched it or just took a look at the highlights, and God, how does Houston not cover that? I mean, the Houston Texans force 4 turnovers on defense. The Seahawks commit 12 penalties, miss a field goal, and the Texans don't even sniff a cover. They don't even get close. The game's not competitive for most of it. I mean, that is a stunning stuff. I thought the bye would help Houston, similar to last year. Last year they had their bye, they went in struggling. They came out and had a much better showing. I thought that that might happen again. That offense looks just completely abysmal, and multiple goal-to-go situations late where you're still in the game. The game's not over. Couldn't get points on the board. And then the cherry on top, you're down 8 with 2:04 on the clock and you have 1 timeout. I mean, you just scored. You gotta kick the ball into the end zone or even out of bounds and just take the penalty. They kick it right to the return man. And of course, wisely, he returns it out and kills the 2-minute warning. So now you're basically cooked. Just brutal stuff on the side of Houston, but what are you gonna do? We can't win them all, right? So we go 2-1 on sides. We go 2-0 on our parlays, which was nice, and we lose our teaser, which was the Saints was the leg that lost the teaser. So 4-2, we'll take that every week. And now we look ahead to week 8. If you guys do want to join, sign up, get my pick releases for the remainder of the season, which get emailed out each morning, texted to you each morning. You can do that down in the description. There's links for discounts and deals or promos and stuff like that if you're interested. So we kick off on Thursday night, as we do every week. Thursday Night Football, the Vikings taking on the Chargers. LA -3 at home, 3.5 at some books, 44.5 is your total. This did open below 3. That is where it piqued my interest at first because my power ratings make this game 3.5. Now that it's basically there, I'll probably be off of the game, but we can still talk matchups. Both of these teams coming off of losses in week 7. The Vikings in their loss to the Eagles actually did some things well. Carson Wentz did make some pretty bad plays that kind of just bury you at some, the pick 6 was brutal. He missed a lot of throws. It was just sloppy overall. He didn't look good against the Eagles defense. But I do think they match up a little bit better against the Chargers, who are still banged up. Yes, they'll be getting a bit healthier, but it's really hard for me to just ignore what I saw on Sunday, man. The Chargers got absolutely bullied by the Colts, and that was ugly. It did not look good. And, one of the things that I've been keeping an eye on is this year, teams after they play the Colts have really struggled. This was a thing that happened a couple of years ago and last year as well with the Lions, if you guys remember. Every time a team would play the Lions, the next week they would really struggle. And the whole idea behind that was that they play such a physical style of ball that they're pounding you in the trenches, they're running on you, they're beating you up. And it's really hard to get up again the following week. It's almost like you need a week in between to recover. So you come out flat a little bit. And that is what we're seeing this year with the Colts, with their O-line, how they're running over everybody. I mean, Jonathan Taylor ran wild in that game against the Chargers. It was never even a game, guys. It was over quickly. So I think that could maybe on a short week, could maybe have a lingering impact for the Chargers. One way that I might look at playing this game when I was looking at some of the prop markets is maybe looking at Herbert's passing props, like pass attempts to the over. Chargers have been throwing the ball a lot. Yes, the Vikings are a team that you should be able to run the ball against, but the Eagles couldn't really do that much of it. They had to go to the pass eventually late, and with all the blitzes that Herbert's going to see, I could see a game script here where the Chargers go pass heavy. So I might look into that, but other than that, I'm not going to be on this game. My lean at the 3.5 would be to Minnesota. The Chargers are just not one of these teams that tend to win by margin, especially when they're banged up. And now that you've seen them in some bad spots, they haven't reacted well to the situational spots that great teams overcome. A little concerned with them moving forward. I would lean slightly to the Minnesota getting the 3.5, but this is not a game that I'm going to be on in terms of the side or total. Might end up being on a proper two, something small. All right, moving over to Sunday, we've got the Jets taking on the Cincinnati Bengals. 6.5s across the board right now. This was at 7 earlier today. 44.5 is your total. Flacco will go again for the Bengals after getting a win on Thursday Night Football last time out against the Steelers. The Jets, right now I'm on my live odds screen. It says TBD, but I think we're getting Tyrod Taylor in this game. I don't think we're going back to Justin Fields. And I don't really think it matters either way. This is your classic, to me, stay away game. I'm not touching this game on either side. And it's just very simple. It's like you're either going to take a full time. I mean, if you want to play the Jets here, try to get a 7. Why would you take a 6.5? There was a 7 available. And on the other side, I just don't really understand how you can lace this many points with that Bengals defense, even though it's the Jets. At some point, as inept as the Jets are, as bad as the quarterback play has been, offensive line play, head coaching, all that stuff has been horrific beyond what we've seen in a very long time in this league. But even with all that, a broken clock, right? It's right twice a day. There's going to be a week where the Jets play a good game, just by chance, right? It's like that whole thing. It's like that whole old example where it's like if you put 100 monkeys in a room with a typewriter, eventually, if you give them an infinite amount of time, they'll eventually write like a Shakespeare play or something. Like eventually the Jets are going to put together a good game. And perhaps it comes against one of these bottom feeder, weaker teams like the Bengals, so far their close to best defensive performance was against the Panthers last week. So it's going to come against one of these weak teams. So for me, it's just like, don't even bother. I wouldn't tease the Bengals down. I wouldn't bet the Jets ATS. I wouldn't lay it with the bet. I just don't want to get involved with these teams. And I do have kind of like an unwritten rule. Like a lot of handicappers they just bet based on ratings and numbers, but I have very specific situational rules, and I do not like getting involved on winless team. Like I'm not one of those guys that's like, oh, they're 0-7, they're due for a win. They're 0-8, they're due for a win. They're 0, because you could go like 5-6 weeks you could lose like 6-7 units before you get a win on that team, and they may go winless. So not interested in the Jets, not interested in the Bengals. The one comment that I will say is that the line is obviously inflated. It's inflated. Like Cincinnati should not be laying 7 in the game, but I also can't, how do you, I was texting a friend about this. Like, if you think about the Jets, cause he was saying the same thing, like this line's crazy. How do you price a team that doesn't have a quarterback basically, and effectively doesn't have a head coach? What it really is Aaron Glenn doing on the sideline? So how do you put an accurate price? How do you quantify that? Maybe it is as a touchdown dog on the road to the Bengals, who are not a good team at all. So it's just one of those games, guys. I think save yourself the stress, and I think there's plenty of other opportunities on the board this week anyway. Next game up, sorry for the rant, Jets fan. 49ers are headed to Houston after their win on Sunday Night Football. Right now, we've got a Texans -1.5, basically across the board. 41.5 is your total. 49ers off the win. Texans off the loss on Monday Night Football. So San Francisco will have a little bit of a rest advantage in this game. Another thing to watch out for, this could be, I think it's going to be Mac Jones again, because why rush back Purdy? But, there is some uncertainty there that maybe you get Purdy back in this game. I think you'll get Mac Jones. I don't think it's going to really matter either way. I'm not, Houston looked so bad on Monday Night Football. Compare what you saw on Sunday Night Football. You could make the argument that the Niners were playing in a worse spot against a better team, and they still were able to pull out the win compared to what Houston did. That was just embarrassing. So, can I then come back and say Houston is a good spot here? Not really. With a rest disadvantage, you're 2-4. Your offense looks abysmal, and now you're going up against another really good defense. Saleh is over there working miracles with this, basically a hospital unit for the 49ers with all of their injuries. And he is scheming that defense really well week in, week out. They did a great job against Atlanta. And even in the games that they lose, they do a really good job keeping it close, keeping it tight. They even did a good job at Tampa defensively. It was a one possession game in the fourth quarter. So, I know a lot to like about the coaching edge in this game goes really by. And remember, Shanahan, Ryan's comes from that coaching tree. So maybe there's some, familiarity there. I mean, I think it's clear which side has the coaching edge. I think it's crazy to say this, but even with Mac Jones, I think it's clear who has the quarterback edge at this point. The running, certainly the rushing game edge with McCaffrey on their side. So what I really like in this game is I'm not interested in the 1 point spread. It's not on any key numbers, but I'll tease, San Francisco. Houston is, if they're going to win, is not going to win by margin. I would never lay 7 in this game with the Texans. So I think getting the Niners up to 7.5 and combining that with another leg, which we'll talk about other legs. There's a lot of good teaser legs this week, I think. So 49ers, definitely one of them, up to 7.5. I know the popular one in this game is going to be the under. Just a little too low for me, 41.5. I could see this being like 23-20 or something like that. So lean to the Niners, lean to them in teasers as well, and just straight up. Just want no part. I took my shot on Houston last week. To me, I look at their schedule. It only gets worse for the Texans. And to me, that game against Seattle, who was a bad cover team at home, coming off a win, and you're coming off the bye, like that was as good as a spot as you're going to find on their schedule all year long. Go look at it. It's not good. It's not pretty. So if they couldn't come through there, not that I want to overreact to it, but I just think the 49ers are the better team, and it showed, and I think it'll continue to show. So like the Niners in that game. All right, we've got the Bears headed to Baltimore to take on the Ravens. Ravens -6.5, pretty much across the board. There was some early 7s in this one that got bought down. 50.5 is your total. Obviously, the big one here, Lamar Jackson should be back for this game. I know there was a story that he did not participate in practice on Monday, but he is currently listed as a starter across like live odds screens and books and things like that. The Bears have won 4 straight games. They're really the story. I know everyone's focusing on the Ravens side of it because they're basically trying to save their season. You've got 2 great, I shouldn't say one is a side, one is a story, and one's not. You've got 2 great narratives here. One that's really high, one that's really low. The Bears started off 0-2. Now they've won 4 straight games. They look good doing it. They're gritty. They're coming from behind. They're winning. They're forcing turnovers. 4 straight games, all of those wins, 3+ takeaways in each game. 4 takeaways last week against the Saints. Really good stuff. And then, winning close games as well, which is what you have to do if you're going to take that next step in the NFL. A 1-point win against the Raiders, stealing that 1-point win in Washington against the Commanders. So really good stuff from the Bears. Everyone's feeling Ben Johnson, loving it. They're fat and happy. But are you at peak market right now? Well, to answer that question, you have to know the health and status of Lamar Jackson. I think he's going to play in this. I cannot fathom that he does not play in this game. If it's just a tweaked hamstring, 3 weeks should be enough for you to get back out there. Maybe not fully 100%, but even if you're like 90, 95%. And you have to understand from a power ratings perspective, from a handicapping betting perspective, how much a guy like Lamar Jackson means to the point spread cannot be overstated. Like, yes, you'll get like Roquan Smith back on defense, which is great. A couple of other guys back on defense, awesome. You get healthier across the board bye week. You reset. Harbaugh's a good coach with extended rest. The plan will be there. But man, Lamar Jackson is, other than Mahomes, he is the guy. He is worth a ton to the point spread. So getting him back changes things a lot. If the Ravens did not have their, go back to week 1 is really where you have to go back to. If that collapse against Buffalo does not happen, this is likely a spread that's much closer to 10. Like if I go back to my priors and look preseason, this is a 9.5. So we're down to 6.5. And not saying it's not justified because they are 1-5, but getting back Lamar Jackson with a sense of urgency, with your season on the line, you cannot afford another loss, basically, at this point. So getting him back, if he's healthy, fully healthy, is going to be massive. And I just can't help but feel that once he is, if I'm right, once he is ruled in for this game, we're going to cross 7 here. So I think you have a little bit of value on the Ravens -6.5. That's the side that I would look to be on if I'm going to bet this game. You can make a case for the Bears, but my rebuttal there would be that the turnovers and the takeaways and the 1-point wins is incredibly unsustainable in the NFL. And we've seen that for decades. It's the same story over and over. We've already seen it this year with the Jaguars. Jaguars started off with the most takeaways in the NFL, the highest turnover differential in the NFL. Now they've won 2 straight games and have gotten shut down offensively in both of those games, right? 12 points, 7 points. The Bears now lead the league in takeaways and turnover differential. They're in my book, they're next, right? They're coming up next. The regression is coming, and I think this could be a really good spot for it to hit. So I like the Ravens -6.5. Obviously, this is all reliant on Lamar playing and Lamar being if for some reason on Friday get like Lamar's out, all bets are off, obviously. But Ravens -6.5 is what I like in this one. All right. Next game up is the Miami Dolphins headed to Atlanta taking on the Falcons. 7 to 7.5 is the spread here. In this one, 44.5 is your total. And the big question, Atlanta loses the game on Sunday Night Football where they didn't look great. They were coming off of one of their best played games where they beat up the Bills at home. Now they go, then they lose on the road. Now they come back home where they've been much better. The big thing here is, obviously this would not have been a 7-point spread before the season started, but we're deep into the season now where we kind of can forget about that. But the real question here is, do you still think Miami has a pulse? I think the clear answer to that is no. This team is completely given up. I think McDaniels has lost the team, lost the locker room. I think none of the guys believe in Tua either. I think the team is completely dead. I think it's just a matter of time before he gets fired. Maybe this is the game where he gets fired. I thought last week would be the game. Like, I can't believe he still has a job, to be honest. Like, if you go on you're playing a 1-5 Cleveland Browns team and you lose 31-6. I'm not sure how you come back with a job, but he still has his job. So the Falcons are the much better team. The Falcons have edges on both sides of the ball. You saw what Judkins did to the Dolphins rushing defense. I was really happy about that because I have Judkins in fantasy. One of our plays actually in week 7 was a parlay, Browns money line and Judkins to score. It's plus 165, I think it was. And it was a breeze. Like, it's just about reading some certain matchups. Now, after that, everyone's been able to run the ball on Miami. And now you got to go against Bijan Robinson and this Falcons offensive line. And even Algiers, who's a great back too. This is going to be no contest. So I love Atlanta in teasers, money line parlays, however you want to play them. You want to lay the 7. I'm not even mad about laying the 7. I just don't think it's going to be a close game. But I think the best way to do this is, I mentioned the plus 7.5 on San Francisco as a teaser leg. Combine it with Atlanta, I think that's a pretty solid 6-point teaser right there. So I think the Falcons, out of every teaser leg or money line parlay piece on the board, are probably the safest one this week because I just don't think the Dolphins have anything left. I think the situation is horrific and I think it's done. And I took them in Survivor. That's part of the reason why I'm taking them. I'm using them this week in Survivor. So like Atlanta in this game quite a bit. Next one up is Buffalo taking on Carolina. The Bills are -7 to 7.5 on the road here against the Panthers. This is not going to be Bryce Young. This is going to be Andy Dalton in this game. One thing to note, this line did hit 8 at one point, got immediately bought back down. Your total is 46.5. And, kind of a similar idea to the Ravens game, even the Falcons game. Like, the Bills need a win, right? The Bills lost 2 in a row going into their bye week, and it wasn't necessarily pretty. Losing as an 8-point favorite at home to a divisional opponent, then going on the road, losing as a 4-point favorite to a weaker team. Buffalo's got to right the ship. This is a good matchup for them to do that. They're better on both sides. They have the better quarterback. They have the better head coach. You've got everything you want here. It's just about not laying an egg on the road. Now, one thing that you do have to respect, I think, at this point is that Carolina has been formidable at home. Okay, they've been good at home. They beat the Cowboys outright at home. They beat the Falcons outright at home. I think they have don't they have 3 home wins? I can't remember off the top of my head which is the other one, but they've been good at home. So I'm not necessarily saying this is going to be easy, but man, I think if Buffalo's ever going to come out with a massive effort, it's going to be to avoid losing your 3rd straight game and have it be to the Carolina Panthers. And I understand they're 4-3 is not the same Panthers we're talking about from last year. But that stigma is certainly still there. So I think Bills are safe in this game. I like them as a teaser leg. I did actually already take them in a 1 parlay. So I might add them in another one, but I think Buffalo wins the game. Whether or not you're comfortable laying the 7 or 7.5 is up to you. I personally try to avoid these bigger spreads that are on those key numbers, and I just like to get these teams to win. A perfect example is last night with the Lions. Like, I loved that spot for the Lions, but even as much as I loved it, I'm not like, I just want to get them to win, right? So I had them in a two-leg parlay, and we cashed it. Like, I just want these good teams and good spots to just win. And it's all about finding ways to position yourself to get in. So I like Buffalo, like Buffalo Atlanta would be a really nice teaser. Buffalo Philly, we'll get to that game next, will be a nice teaser. Like, just getting these teams that really need a win just to win and not having to worry about these points, because so many of these games come down to these spreads being backdoored or not. Like, it's just crazy. And I find that over, like, as we do this year in, year out, the more picks you make against the spread, the harder it is to maintain your win rate. So you have to find ways to get creative. So I like Buffalo for parlays and teasers. Maybe first half look could be something to consider. I do think they win the game. That's basically my take on it. They're better in all the positions you want a team to be better in. So I think they win the game. But it's just at least worth noting that the Panthers have been good at home. But I do like Buffalo in this one. All right, the Giants are taking on the Eagles. Eagles -7 at home in this game. 43.5 is your total. Lots to cover in this one. All right. Philly gets a much needed win at Minnesota. The urgency was there. You could see it from the first drive of the game. They started off trying to run the ball, eventually had to go to passing the ball. Did a really good job doing it. Executed well enough on defense for a pick six. They did what they had to do. They got to win. The Giants, man, the Giants played a very impressive 3 quarters at Denver, and even into the fourth quarter had an 18-point lead with 5 minutes left, and we know how that game ended. So really, really tough to kind of get back up after that. And I think the spot here makes it extra difficult because you have that kind of loss. I mean, that's a back-breaking like that's a game there's under no circumstances should the Giants have lost that game. So that makes it incredibly tough to get back up for the next week. But not only that, the game you're coming into is a divisional opponent that you already upset. You just beat them as a 7-point dog at home. So that's going to be in the mind of the Eagles, who are now going to be healthier. They didn't have Jalen Carter for that game. They didn't have Quinyon Mitchell for that game. Both of those guys will be back on defense. So I think this is going to be rough for the Giants. Now, I'm not, obviously I'm a little higher on Philly than the market is or than everyone else is. I'm not saying I love them or anything like that, and I'm certainly not betting them ATS. But I do think they'll win the game. I do think you can maybe play them in parlays or teasers. But the big thing I just want to note here is the spot. The spot is really tough for the Giants. I mean, if they come out and they get up for this one and they keep it close and potentially win, like, I would be very impressed. Because that is and by the way, the cross-country travel too, like you go to Denver, you play a phenomenal game, you blow it in the end in catastrophic fashion, and now you got to travel back across the country to play a divisional foe who's much better than you, that you already upset just 2 weeks ago. Like, it's fresh in their mind. Really tough spot for the Giants. So lean Philly here. Not going to play at ATS, but definitely will have at least one teaser or one money line parlay with the Eagles as a piece, just to get in on, because I just think they're going to win the game. The Cleveland Browns taking on the New England Patriots. Pats -7 at home, 40.5. This one jumped out at me initially with the total. I even had a couple of friends text me like, hey, that total's kind of low for a Patriots game with the way Drake May is slinging it. And on top of that, the Browns defense, as good as it is, it's been a lot better at home. Worth noting, right? They went to Detroit, gave up a bunch of points. So, maybe a small lean to the over here, but this is one of the few games on the board that I would not tease. I don't want to tease the Patriots down. And it's not because I think they're going to lose outright, but I just think that of the favorites that are 6 to 7 point favorites, this one would be the least surprising to me if it were to go that other way. I would not be that surprised if they go in there and Judkins has a good game and Gabriel kind of dinks and dunks it and the defense holds up really well. It's just one of those, like, the Patriots, like, how hot can you run, right? Like, the offense is just on fire right now. And Drake May is playing like the best quarterback in the NFL. I mean, like, just guys ask yourself, like, how long can that go on for? And usually, when you have to ask yourself that about a team, the answer is not much longer, right? NFL, the old joke, NFL stands for not for long. Nothing lasts very long in this league. Adjustments are quick and they're harsh, and regression is brutal. So, not saying any of that's going to happen in this game, but it wouldn't surprise me if this is a close game that you have to sweat out, especially with the way the Patriots upset the Bills, right? Massive, monumental win for them to stamp Vrabel's name on, as the new coach of this team. And then he goes to Tennessee and he gets revenge for, his firing from the Titans and all that stuff. So now you've got like back-to-back big emotional wins. And now, excuse me, now you go home and it's like the lowly Browns come in. Kind of a little tricky, I will say. So this is one that I'm not looking to tease. I'm not looking to get involved in this game on either side, to be honest. So Cleveland, New England is a total pass for me. All right, we've got the Buccaneers taking on the Saints. Tampa Bay minus 4.5 here on the road in New Orleans. 46.5 is your total. You saw kind of the state of the Buccaneers on Monday Night Football. Pretty banged up on offense. Now you lose Evans for the season. That was a really tough loss. I honestly was a little surprised they even played him. You just like you're 5-1 and you're already super banged up, and Detroit's off a loss, and it just seemed like a futile effort kind of thing. Like why risk the health of Egbuka and Evans? And I'm not saying to just punt the game away, but you try to do what you can do with some of the other guys, but it just seemed like a little risky, and they got a little burned with that. So now Evans is done. That's a really big loss for them. The Saints, listen, the Saints were okay when they played the Bears, but you can't turn the ball over 4 times. The Saints, if they turn the ball over, you can't overcome that. It's just too much. When this opened 5.5 to 6, my initial lean was to the Saints. My numbers said play the Saints. Now it's kind of settled at where I have it rated, so I'll be off of this game. I'm not going to give you the spiel about, like, usually I say, like, I like this team to win, so put them in teasers and parlays. This is another one that I'm not going to tell, like, I don't want Tampa in any of my parlays or teasers. Not that I would tease a 4 anyway, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Saints keep this very close, make this sweaty, or pull off an outright upset. So, their one win was at home so far this season. I know it was the Giants, but these divisional games with home divisional dogs, you got to be a little careful with them. A la the Panthers over the Falcons, that type of game, right? So, and we just saw the Bengals over the Steelers. So you really got to be careful with these big home divisional dogs. And this is one of those where it's just like, what am I really getting on either side here? There's nothing interesting. Tampa's too banged up to back off of a loss. The Saints are too inconsistent and high variance. Just a total pass for me overall in this game. All right. This one gets even worse. The Tennessee Titans headed to Indianapolis, taking on the Colts. You've got a 14-point spread in this game. You've got a total of 47, basically across the board. I talked earlier about how the Colts kind of beat you up, run all over you. They've already played the Titans once. It wasn't close. They hit the Chargers last week. It wasn't close. Man, this Colts team looks very good, man. Really, really good. The offensive line, Jonathan Taylor. You're not going to have Jeffrey Simmons for this game. That's an enormous loss on the defensive side of the ball for Tennessee. I just don't see how this game's close. I really don't. I know it's inflated because I'm looking at my ratings and I got it at 11. But it's one of those games where this happened with the Bengals-Packers game. I had that at 11. It was 14. Yes, the Bengals ended up covering, but I didn't touch it. And it's the same thing here. I have a 3-point discrepancy of my rating to the market. And I'm not going to touch it because Tennessee is, I guess, not the worst team in the league at this point. The Jets are, but they're bottom 2 in the league. And the Colts are kind of, listen, the Colts can win this game by 40 points, or they can just lollygag through it and still win by 10. There's no sense of urgency here for them. They're playing phenomenally. They're atop the division. It's not going to be close in that division. So, Indy's got everything going for them. So I just think they'll win the game comfortably, but could be one of those spreads that maybe the back door's open late and you just have to sweat it for no reason. And you know what? They're too big to put in a parlay unless you make it a 3-legger, which I'm just trying to keep it to 2 legs. So nothing for me on this game. Maybe a little bit of a lean to the over just because I think Indies can name their number in this one, especially without Simmons on the defensive front for Tennessee. They could put up 40 themselves in this game. So slight lean to the over. Indy will obviously win the game, but I won't be getting involved against the spread in this one. The Cowboys are headed to Denver to take on the Broncos. This is a game that I am involved in. This will be the pick that I give you guys for this week's podcast. Unfortunately, the line has moved, but you can shop it around. So let's take a look. 50.5 on the total, 3.5 basically across the board. There's one or two juiced threes at minus 115 for Denver. When I initially looked at this game, this to me it was a clear like right away gut reaction Sunday night. To me, it was a clear spot where it's like, oh, this is a good number for the Cowboys, right? You're getting a full field goal on the road with their offense. They can put up so many points. The Broncos cannot pull away from anybody. They barely escaped against the Giants. But then I do my deep dive. I do my, I'd sleep on it, post-game analysis stuff, update my ratings, and I'm seeing sneaky value on Denver. So I grabbed 3. I grabbed Broncos -3, -110. Yes, it's now at 3.5. I'm not trying to give you guys stale numbers, but this is the benefit of trying to bet early, and this is what we do for our subscribers. But 3 at -115, I would still play it, and that's out there available. But I like Denver in the game. The look ahead was 5 in this one. My ratings currently have it at 4. I could maybe argue for 4.5. But I just think it's going to be a sneaky buy low spot because you have two things at play here. You have the Broncos who struggled for 3 quarters against the Giants, couldn't do much, got 33 points in the fourth quarter, a ridiculous outlier game, right? But then the Cowboys also beat up a divisional opponent at home, dropped 44 points against the Commanders, now have to travel cross country and go on the road. Not really cross country, but have to travel to the West to go on the road in a tough environment, one of the better home fields in the NFL. But I think the main thing that I'm taking away from this matchup is if I'm going to really buy low on the Broncos, sell high on the Cowboys, which is what I think I'm doing here. One of the things that I'm realizing is that like this is going to be so far this season the best defense, especially passing defense, that the Cowboys will have faced, and conversely, this is going to be by far the worst defense that the Broncos have faced. So if there's ever a game where we'll see Denver's offense finally get right and look, cohesive, it's going to be this one. And if there's ever a matchup where Dak and the Cowboys, who have been throwing it on everybody, will have problems passing the ball, it's going to be this one. So that's how I look at it. And that's why I think there's some sneaky value on the Broncos. -3, 3.5. I honestly would still play 3.5, but at a smaller, smaller unit size. But I love the 3, so I grabbed it early. And I think this could be one of those games where it's just like your classic NFL spot where it makes no sense. It's like, what? The Broncos have been struggling all year. They can't move the ball. They can't convert it. He keeps overthrowing guys. The Cowboys have been torching everybody. And then you come into this game and it's a matchup specific. It's just they don't match up well. The Cowboys don't match up well. The Broncos match up well. And I think it just could be one of those games where the Broncos win it by a touchdown or more, and everyone's like kind of surprised. Dallas is a very popular dog. They're going to be a very popular dog in this game. So I like kind of the contrarian angle and buying low on Denver at home. We'll see if it comes to fruition. But Broncos -3 is a play that I'm on. All right, your Sunday night football game is the Green Bay Packers taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Green Bay -3 on the road. 3.5 was available for a bit, came back down. 45 is the total. Obviously, the big story in this one, Aaron Rodgers taking on his former team. Do I think that's being overblown a little bit? Yes. Do I still show some value with my ratings on Pittsburgh? Yes. I have this 2.5. But I kind of like Green Bay. I kind of like Green Bay in the game personally. I really don't like the Steelers defense. That's the unit. I think that's the weakest unit in this game by far. And I think you can argue that the strongest unit of the 4 that you're going to see on the field is the Packers defense. So that concerns me a little bit in this game. I think Green Bay will be able to get pressure against a quarterback that is not mobile, right, with Rodgers. And I think the Steelers defense is just, man, you saw what Flacco did against them. Plenty of teams. I mean, go back to week 1, the Jets. What the Jets did against them. The Jets haven't been able to do that against anybody. I think the Steelers defense is overrated. And I think this could be finally a game where it's like, Green Bay's offense hasn't looked great on the road. They did put up 40 points in Dallas, but they got torched. But I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think Rodgers is going to move the ball up and down the field all day on them. So I could see Green Bay's offense having a good game in this one. Now, again, is this a game that I'm going to run and hammer to 3? No, because what I'm telling you is just kind of like what I'm looking at based on matchups and what I think of the game. It's more opinion based, but my numbers say that there's a little bit of value on Pitt at 3 and even more value at 3.5, obviously. So, like if I was just doing this based on ratings, I would grab Steelers 3.5. I personally think the Packers win the game, so I might throw them in a money line parlay, something like that. Not running to lay 3.5 though. If I laid it in this game, I'd have to get a 3 with the Packers. Your Monday Night Football game is the Commanders taking on the Kansas City Chiefs. KC minus 10.5 in this one. 48 is the total. We've got a TBD listed here as the quarterback for Washington, but based on what we've seen so far, based on how the market has reacted, I don't think you're getting Jaden Daniels in this game. I think you're getting Marcus Mariota. But I'm here to tell you that I don't think it matters. I mentioned on the podcast last week, if you think this Chiefs offense is back, which I do, then that minus 12 last week or 11 against the Raiders should be a no problem. They won the game 31-0. I think this team is back. I think they're going to blow the doors off Washington, who is just a below average team and now has more injuries. They lose another pass rusher. And you just don't have depth there. The defense is not good. They're old and slow. Just not much. Like this team last year overachieved so much that it has warped the public perception on them. This is a below average football team, the Commanders. And the Chiefs are the best team in the NFL. And they're atop my power ratings. But here's the thing. They're atop my power ratings by 1.5. So there's a gap. There's a gap there. My second team is Detroit, but I think the Chiefs are far and away the best team in the NFL. And the way Mahomes is playing and the way they've got all their weapons now, I just don't see it. I don't see it for Washington in this one. I think KC in parlays obviously is great. I mean, I'd be absolutely stunned if they lost this game. They can't afford to lose games, right? You're right there in the division. Fine, you're 4-3, but guess what? The Chargers are favored on Thursday Night Football. The Broncos are favored in this week. You still got to win. Like Casey's not losing this game. So if you want a parlay piece, this is the one. But even maybe a 10-point teaser, get them down to a half. Great. They're going to win. But I think even the 10, I think they're going to even cover the 10. I just think KC is back and they're back in a big way. And, currently the way the league is currently looking right now, no one's beating them. Nobody's beating the Chiefs. So that's just what I think and what my ratings say as well. So I like KC minus 10. That's my lean, but I love them to just win. What I'll do is load up, 2, maybe 3 parlays that are smaller unit sizes so that they equal to like 1.5 units or 2 units and try to get them all to be the last leg for the Chiefs on Monday Night Football. And then they take us home. That's what I like to do in these spots. It doesn't always work out. Obviously, you're playing with, risk. It's not a perfect science, but that is what I try to like to do. So give me the Chiefs in parlays, 10-point teasers if you like, and a lean to the minus 10. So that is the week 8 slate, guys. I'm hoping that you guys get something out of this each week. I know I see some of the comments. I really appreciate them. If you do, let me know down in the comments. The pick that I gave you for this week, Broncos minus 3. I do think, by the way, that if you wait, if you're not like urgent, maybe you don't love it as much as I do. I do think if you wait, that 3.5 may get bought back down. So, take that for what you will, but I'll pin it down in the comments so you guys know what my pick is for the week. Broncos minus 3. If you like that, let me know if you're tailing it. Let me know what other picks you like down in the comments. And if you guys, like I said, if you want to subscribe to get my picks, like we have a ton of subscribers that come from TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter. There's deals in the description, but even if you don't want to do that, you just enjoy the content, a like, a subscribe, all that stuff, a comment goes a long way as we try to grow our channel here on YouTube. So thank you guys for watching. That's week 8. I will see you again this week as we wrap up on Friday again. But until then, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time.